Meet Aisha, a young black mechanic who fixed a veteran's truck for free. Then a mysterious letter arrived, sparking a chain reaction that transformed the town. Want to know what happened next? Stick around, this story will blow your mind. Shocking act of kindness in a dusty corner of a small town garage. Under the flickering glow of a single bulb, a young black mechanic named Aisha Carter made a decision that would ripple far beyond her workbench. She wasn't just fixing a truck, she was about to change lives, starting with her own. Aisha, 28, was no ordinary mechanic. Raised in a family of 5 in Riverton, a sleepy town where everyone knew everyone, she'd grown up tinkering with engines alongside her father, a man who could make any machine hum like it was brand new. But when her dad passed away 3 years ago, Aisha inherited more than his toolbox. She took on his dream of running Carter's Auto Repair, a garage that was more than a business. It was a legacy. The day started like any other. The sun beat down on Riverton's cracked sidewalks, and Aisha was elbow deep in a stubborn carburetor when a beat-up Ford pickup limped into her lot. Its engine coughed like it had a cold, and the man behind the wheel looked just as weary. His name was Tom Hargrove, a 67-year-old Vietnam War veteran with a gray beard and a story etched into every line on his face. Tom's truck wasn't just a vehicle, it was his lifeline. He used it to haul supplies for his small farm, the only thing keeping him afloat after years of medical bills and a meager pension. But the truck was on its last legs, and Tom's voice trembled as he explained he couldn't afford the repairs. "I don't know what I'll do if she quits on me," he said, his eyes fixed on the ground. Aisha didn't hesitate. "Leave it with me," she said, her voice steady but kind. "We'll figure something out." Tom nodded, grateful but unsure, and shuffled back to his farm on foot. What he didn't know was that Aisha had already made up her mind. She'd fix the truck for free. It wasn't an easy decision. The garage was barely breaking even. Aisha was paying for parts out of her own pocket, skipping meals to keep the lights on. But something about Tom, maybe his quiet dignity, maybe the way he reminded her of her dad, told her this was bigger than money. That night, Aisha stayed late, her hands moving with precision as she tore into the truck's engine. The radiator was shot, the alternator was fried, and the transmission was hanging on by a prayer. It was a $2,000 job, minimum, but Aisha didn't flinch. She pulled parts from her own stock, called in favors from suppliers, and worked until the stars faded into dawn. By morning, the truck purred like it was fresh off the lot. Aisha wiped her hands on a rag, a quiet smile spreading across her face. She called Tom and told him to come pick it up. When he arrived, she handed him the keys and said, "No charge." Tom's jaw dropped. "You're kidding me," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "Why would you do this?" Aisha shrugged. "Because it's the right thing to do." But this was only the beginning. Word of Aisha's kindness spread like wildfire through Riverton, and soon, a single act of generosity would spark a chain reaction that no one, not even Aisha, could have predicted. Riverton wasn't the kind of place where news stayed quiet. By noon the next day, Aisha's story was the talk of the town. The local diner buzzed with chatter about the young mechanic who fixed a veteran's truck for free. People shared the story over coffee, on front porches, and in the checkout line at the grocery store. Aisha, who'd always kept her head down, was suddenly a local hero, but not everyone was thrilled. Aisha's older brother, Marcus, who helped manage the garage's books, was worried. "Aisha, you can't keep giving away free work," he said, pacing the cramped office. "We're barely making it as it is." "I know," Aisha replied, her voice calm but firm. "But Dad always said the garage was about more than money. It's about people." Marcus sighed. He loved his sister's heart, but he couldn't ignore the numbers. The garage was drowning in bills, rent, utilities, parts. Aisha's generosity might have warmed hearts, but it wasn't paying the suppliers. Meanwhile, Tom Hargrove couldn't stop talking about Aisha. At the VFW hall, where he met with other veterans every week, he told the story of the young woman who'd given him back his lifeline. "She didn't just fix my truck," he said, his voice cracking. "She gave me hope." One of the veterans, a retired school teacher named Clara, decided to take action. She started a crowdfunding page to help Aisha's garage, sharing the story of her kindness online. "This woman deserves our support," Clara wrote. "She's keeping our community alive." The post went viral. By the end of the week, donations were pouring in, $10 here, $50 there. some from strangers halfway across the country. Aisha was stunned when Clara showed up at the garage with a printout of the crowdfunding page, which had already raised $5,000. "I don't know what to say," Aisha stammered, her eyes wide. "This is too much. It's not enough," Clara said with a smile. "You're doing something special here." The money helped, but it wasn't just about the dollars. The attention brought new customers to the garage. People who'd heard about Aisha and wanted to support her. Suddenly, Carter's auto repair was busier than ever. Aisha hired the part-time mechanics, both young women from the community who'd always wanted to learn the trade. She taught them the way her dad taught her, with patience and a steady hand. But the real surprise came a few days later, when a letter arrived at the garage. It was handwritten, the envelope worn and creased like it had traveled a long way. Aisha opened it, expecting a bill or a thank you note. Instead, it was something else entirely, a letter from Tom's daughter, Emily, who lived 2,000 miles away. In Seattle, Aisha sat on a stool in the garage, the letter trembling in her hands. Emily's words were neat and deliberate, written in blue ink. "Dear Aisha, you don't know me, but I'm Tom Hargrave's daughter. My dad called me last week, crying something he hasn't done since my mom passed. He told me what you did for him, how you fixed his truck without asking for a dime. I need you to know what that means to us. That truck isn't just his way to get around, it's how he keeps his farm going, how he keeps his independence. You gave him more than a working engine, you gave him dignity. I haven't been home in years. Life got in the way, work, kids, distance. But hearing about you made me realize I need to see my dad. I'm coming to Riverton next month and I'd love to meet you. Thank you for reminding me what matters. With gratitude." Emily Hargrave. Aisha read the letter 3 times, her throat tight. She hadn't expected this. Fixing Tom's truck was just something she did because it felt right. But now, it was reconnecting. A father and daughter. She tucked the letter into her toolbox, next to her dad's old wrench, and got back to work. But the letter stayed with her, a quiet reminder that small acts could have big consequences. The garage was now a hub of activity. Customers came not just for repairs, but to meet Aisha, to shake her hand, to tell her their own stories. One man, a retired firefighter, brought in his old Chevy and insisted on paying double, saying, "You're keeping this town alive, kid." A local news station caught wind of the story and sent a reporter to interview Aisha. She was shy, in front of the camera, but her passion shone through. "This garage is my dad's legacy," she said. "I just want to make him proud." The story aired on the evening news, and suddenly, Aisha's phone was ringing off the hook. Businesses offered to sponsor the garage, a local high school asked her to teach a mechanic's workshop, and a national auto parts chain reached out with an offer to supply her at cost. But not everything was smooth. The sudden attention brought challenges. Some folks in town grumbled that Aisha was getting too much praise, whispering that she was just playing the hero. Others questioned why she'd hired the young women instead of experienced mechanics. Aisha ignored the noise, but it stung. She'd never asked for the spotlight, she just wanted to do good work. Marcus, ever the pragmatist, saw an opportunity. "We need to capitalize on this," he said. "Maybe expand the garage, get some new equipment." But Aisha wasn't sure. She loved the garage the way it was, small, personal, hers. Could she grow without losing what made it special? As Aisha wrestled with the future, Emily's visit loomed. What would it be like to meet the woman whose letter had shaken her to her core? The day Emily arrived in Riverton, the garage was quieter than usual. Aisha had cleared her schedule, nervous but excited. She'd never met someone whose life she touched so deeply without even knowing it. Tom pulled up in his now smooth running truck, and a woman stepped out of the passenger seat. Emily was in her early 40s, with her dad's kind eyes and a warm smile. She hugged Aisha before saying a word, catching her off guard. "Thank you," Emily said, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't know what you've done for us." Over coffee at the diner, Emily shared her story. She'd grown distant from her dad after moving to Seattle for work. Life had been tough: divorce, single motherhood, long hours. She hadn't realized how much her dad was struggling until his call about Aisha. "He said you reminded him of me when I was younger," Emily said. "Fearless, stubborn, good." Tom, sitting beside her, nodded. "Aisha's like family now," he said. "She's got that spark." The visit wasn't just a reunion, it was a turning point. Emily decided to move back to Riverton to be closer to her dad. She took a job at the local library, and Tom started teaching her how to tend the farm. Aisha became a regular at their Sunday dinners, where they swapped stories and laughed late into the night. The garage kept growing. With the crowdfunding money and new sponsorships, Aisha upgraded her equipment and expanded her team. She started a free Saturday clinic for low-income families, fixing cars for those who couldn't afford it. The clinic became a community event, with volunteers bringing food and kids playing in the lot while Aisha and her team worked. But growth brought new pressures. The bigger the garage got, the more Aisha felt the weight of expectations. Suppliers wanted contracts, customers wanted faster service, and markets kept pushing for a second location. Aisha missed the days when it was just her, a wrench, and an engine. One night, alone in the garage, she pulled out Emily's letter and read it again. It reminded her why she'd started this, not for fame or money, but for people like Tom, Emily, and her dad. She decided to stay true to her roots. The garage would grow, but it would always be a place where people came first. Months later, Carter's Auto Repair was unrecognizable, not because it had changed, but because it had become a beacon. The garage was now a community hub, a place where people came for more than just car repairs. Aisha's free clinics had helped dozens of families, and her mentorship program for young mechanics, especially women of color, was inspiring the new generation. The national auto parts chain offered Aisha a deal to franchise her garage, but she turned it down. "This place is Riverton's," she told Marcus. "It's not about getting big, it's about staying real." Marcus, finally understanding, nodded. "Dad would be proud," he said. Aisha's story didn't stop at Riverton's borders. The news segment went viral online, racking up millions of views. People from across the country sent letters, tools, and even hand-drawn pictures from kids who wanted to be mechanics like Aisha. One letter came from a young girl in Chicago. "You make me believe I can do anything." Aisha framed that one and hung it in the garage. Tom and Emily became fixtures in Aisha's life. Tom volunteered at the Saturday clinics, teaching kids how to change oil, while Emily helped organize community events. The three of them were proof that kindness could build a family, not just a business. One evening, as Aisha locked up the garage, she looked at the sign above the door, Carter's Auto Repair. She thought of her dad, of Tom, of Emily, of the countless people who walked through those doors. She'd started with a single act of kindness, and it had grown into something bigger than she'd ever imagined. As she drove home under a sky full of stars, Aisha knew one thing for sure: her dad's legacy wasn't just in the garage. It was in every life she touched, every heart she'd warmed, and every story that would carry on long after she was gone. And that, folks, is the power of kindness. One spark can light up a whole town. Subscribe, hit that bell, and let me know in the comments, what's the kindest thing you've ever done? Let's keep this story going. And that's the incredible story of Aisha's kindness. If this heartwarming tale inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a story like this. Drop a comment below. What's the kindest thing you've seen or done? Let's spread the love. See you in the next video.